Galactic Council betrayed humans. We issued the ultimatum. The discovery of betrayal Captain Elena Rivera stood in the observation gallery of the Galactic Assembly Station, watching hundreds of alien species move through the corridors below. She had been coming to this place for 5 years now, representing humanity in diplomatic matters. The station orbited a neutral star system, built by the Council centuries before humans even left Earth. Every species in known space had representatives here. It was supposed to be a place of peace, cooperation, and mutual progress. Elena had believed in that vision once. She had thought the Galactic Council truly wanted to help younger species like humanity grow and prosper, but recent events had planted seeds of doubt in her mind. 3 human mining colonies had gone silent in the past 6 months. Each time, the Council investigators concluded it was equipment failure or natural disasters. Each time, Elena felt they were hiding something. Her communicator buzzed. It was Lieutenant James Park, her intelligence officer. His voice was tense and urgent. "Elena, you need to come to the secure room immediately. I found something. Something bad." Elena left the observation gallery and made her way through the station's winding corridors. She passed delegates from the Vortan Collective, the Methrin Principality, and dozens of other civilizations. Most ignored her. Humans were still considered newcomers, barely worth noticing. That attitude had always bothered Elena, but she had learned to accept it. Humanity was only 200 years into space travel. Most of these species had been exploring the stars for thousands of years. The secure room was deep in the human section of the station. It was one of the few places where Elena knew their conversations could not be monitored. James was waiting for her, along with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, their chief science advisor, and Commander David Torres, head of their security detail. James did not waste time with pleasantries. He activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Classified documents appeared, marked with Council security codes. I managed to crack their encryption protocols. It took me 3 months, but I finally got access to their internal communications. The documents began to scroll across the display. Elena read them, and with each line her blood ran colder. The Council had not just known about the attacks on human colonies. They had facilitated them. Trade routes that human ships were required to use had been deliberately planned to pass through regions controlled by the Corvan pirates. The pirates had received advanced weapons and intelligence about human ship movements. The source of those weapons and that intelligence was the Galactic Council itself. But it got worse. Much worse. The 3 mining colonies that had been destroyed were not victims of accidents. They had been attacked by the Zethrak Empire, a militaristic species that controlled significant territory near human space. The Zethraks had used weapons that violated multiple galactic treaties. Weapons they should not have possessed. Weapons the Council had quietly sold to them. Sarah spoke up, her voice shaking with barely controlled anger. They killed 15,000 people, men, women, children, and the Council helped them do it. David leaned forward, studying the documents. "Why, what do they gain from weakening us?" "Control," Elena said quietly. The pieces were falling into place now. Humanity was growing too fast. Human technology was advancing rapidly. Human colonies were spreading to resource-rich systems. The older species on the Council saw humanity as a threat to their power. So they were making sure humanity stayed weak, dependent, easy to manage. James pulled up more files. There is more. Our petition to expand our defense fleet was rejected last year, right? 47 species voted against us. I found the internal discussions before that vote. The Council leadership actively lobbied against us. They told other species that humans were too aggressive, too militaristic. They spread lies and manipulated the vote. Elena felt rage building inside her. She had spent 5 years playing by the rules, being diplomatic, trusting the system. And all that time, the Council had been stabbing humanity in the back. "What do we do?" Sarah asked. "If we go public with this, they will just deny it. They control the information networks. They control the courts. Who is going to believe us over them?" Elena thought for a moment. Her mind raced through possibilities and consequences. Going public would likely fail. The Council would suppress the evidence. They would discredit humanity. They might even use it as an excuse to impose sanctions or restrictions. But doing nothing was not an option either. "We need more than just evidence of what they did," Elena said. "We need leverage, something that makes them think twice before coming after us." "Like what?" David asked. We are outnumbered and outgunned. Our fleet is a fraction of the size of any major council species. We have been asking for permission to build more ships for years, and they keep saying no. James hesitated, then pulled up another file. This one was different. It was not from the council's databases. It was a human intelligence report, classified at the highest levels. While I was digging through council files, I found something else, a reference to an old human outpost, a place that was abandoned during the early expansion period, about 150 years ago. The council has been monitoring it. They have ships near it. They seem very interested in making sure no one goes there. Where is it? Elena asked. A system called Arcturus Prime. It is about 40 light-years from Earth, off the main trade routes. The original colony there was evacuated after some kind of incident, but the records are sealed. Even I cannot access them. Sarah looked thoughtful. I remember reading something about Arcturus Prime in historical archives. The colony was supposed to be one of our most successful early settlements. Thousands of people lived there. Then suddenly everyone left. The official story was that the environment was too harsh, but that never made sense. We had the technology to terraform harsh environments even back then. Elena made a decision. We are going there. If the council is this interested in keeping people away, there must be something valuable there. Something we can use. David frowned. That is a big risk. If the council finds out we are investigating Arcturus Prime, they might see it as an act of defiance. They already see us as a problem, Elena replied. They are already working to destroy us. We cannot keep playing defense. We need to find out what is on that planet. The journey to Arcturus Prime took 2 weeks. Elena assembled a small team, James, Sarah, David, and a dozen specialists. They traveled in a civilian science vessel, claiming they were conducting routine stellar surveys. The council monitors did not pay much attention. As far as they knew, it was just another boring human research mission. As they approached Arcturus Prime, Sarah began scanning the planet. Her instruments immediately picked up unusual readings. There are structures down there, massive ones, and they are giving off energy signatures that match human technology, but the design is different. More advanced, Elena felt her heart racing. Could this be a secret human research facility? Something from the early expansion period that was never properly documented? They landed near the largest structure. It was a pyramid-shaped building, half buried in the rocky terrain. The surface was covered in symbols that looked like ancient human languages, mixed with mathematical formulas. Sarah was fascinated. This is incredible. These symbols are pre-spaceflight human writing systems, Sanskrit, ancient Chinese, Egyptian hieroglyphs, but they are arranged in patterns that suggest advanced scientific knowledge. David and his security team went in first, checking for dangers. The interior was intact, preserved by some kind of environmental shield. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for humans, but the technology embedded in the walls was far beyond anything humanity currently possessed. They found a central chamber. In the middle of it stood a massive computer core, still active after all these years. Sarah approached it carefully. Her scanning equipment was going crazy. This technology is at least 100,000 years old, maybe older, but it is human. Completely, undeniably human. Elena stared at the computer core. That is impossible. Humans did not exist 100,000 years ago. Not as a spacefaring civilization. Sarah shook her head. Apparently we did, and we were more advanced than we are now. James managed to interface with the computer system. Data began flowing across his portable display. He read it, and his eyes went wide. Elena, you need to see this. This is a historical database. It says humanity rose to become a dominant power in this region of space over 100,000 years ago. We had an empire that spanned thousands of worlds. We had technology that made us nearly invincible. What happened? David asked. James scrolled through more files. War, a massive conflict with other species. It went on for centuries. Both sides used weapons that devastated entire star systems. Humanity eventually won, but the cost was catastrophic. Our civilization collapsed. Most of our knowledge was lost. The survivors retreated to Earth and started over. We forgot everything. Elena felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. This changed everything. Humanity was not a newcomer to the galactic stage. They were returning to a place they once ruled. Keep looking, she told James. There has to be more. Weapons, ships, something we can use. James dug deeper into the database. He found schematics, technical specifications, entire libraries of information, and then he found what they were looking for. A facility, 300 kilometers from here. It is a military installation. According to these records, it contains ships, weapons, and manufacturing equipment, all of it preserved in stasis fields. Elena looked at her team. This is it. This is how we turn the tables on the Council. We find that facility. We activate whatever is there, and we show them that humanity is not weak anymore. They reached the military facility 2 hours later. It was even larger than the pyramid, a vast underground complex that extended for miles in every direction. The entrance was sealed with security systems that required human DNA to open. Sarah provided a sample and the doors slid open with a hiss. Inside, they found wonders beyond imagination. Row after row of ships, each one sleek and deadly. Weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Manufacturing machines that could produce advanced technology without any human input. Everything was functional, waiting for humanity to reclaim its heritage. David walked up to one of the ships. It was smaller than modern human vessels, but something about its design felt predatory. Dangerous. This is military hardware. Real military hardware, not the patrol boats the Council lets us build. These are warships. Sarah examined the ship's systems. They are designed for neural interface. The pilot connects directly to the ship through a mental link. Response time would be instantaneous. No delays, no manual controls. Just pure thought translated into action. James was already accessing the facility's main computer. There are hundreds of ships here, maybe thousands. And the manufacturing equipment is active. If we bring in the right materials, we could start producing more. Elena made a call to her superiors on Earth. She explained everything they had found. The ancient human civilization, the evidence of Council betrayal, the military facility with its incredible technology. There was a long silence on the other end. Then came the response she had hoped for. Proceed, take whatever you need, and prepare for what comes next. Over the following weeks, Elena's team worked tirelessly. They cataloged the technology. They tested the ships. They trained pilots on the neural interface systems. It was difficult. The ancient technology required specific genetic markers that only some humans possessed, but they found enough compatible pilots to crew a small fleet. Word of their activities eventually reached the Council. Messages arrived demanding explanations. Elena ignored them. She was done asking for permission. The Zethrak Empire noticed too. Their military began mobilizing near human space. They thought humanity was vulnerable. They thought this was their chance to strike while humans were distracted. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Elena stood in the command center of the ancient facility. Around her, screens showed the status of 40 newly activated warships. Each one was crewed and ready. The pilots reported feeling a strange connection to their vessels, as if the ships were extensions of their own bodies. It is time, Elena said. We return to the Galactic Assembly. We present our evidence, and we make it clear that humanity will not be pushed around anymore. The fleet launched from Arcturus Prime. They moved through space with grace and speed that made modern ships look clumsy. The ancient human technology was not just good, it was revolutionary. As they traveled toward the assembly station, Elena prepared her speech. She would tell the Council everything. She would show them the evidence of their crimes. She would demonstrate the power humanity now possessed, and she would give them a choice. Accept humanity as equals or face the consequences. The galaxy was about to change. The old powers had enjoyed their dominance for too long. Now humanity was back, and this time they would not be ignored. Uncovering ancient power, the voyage from Arcturus Prime to the neutral zone where the Galactic Assembly Station orbited took 8 days. Elena used that time to prepare her team for what was coming. She knew that revealing the ancient human technology would shock the galaxy. Many species would see it as a threat. Others might see it as an opportunity. Everything depended on how she presented it. Dr. Sarah Mitchell spent most of the journey analyzing the data they had recovered from the ancient facility. She worked in the science lab of their flagship, a vessel they had named the Reclaimer. It was one of the ancient warships, now reactivated and crewed by humans who carried the right genetic markers for neural interface piloting. Sarah called Elena to the lab on the 5th day of their journey. Elena arrived to find holographic displays showing complex genetic sequences and historical timelines. Sarah looked exhausted but excited. I have been comparing ancient human DNA samples from the facility with modern human genetics. The results are fascinating. Elena studied the displays. What did you find? The ancient humans were us, genetically identical in almost every way. But there are small differences. Specific markers that appear in about 40% of modern humans. These markers seem to be what allows neural interface with the ancient technology. Sarah pulled up another chart. I think these markers were engineered. The ancient humans modified their own genetics to better interface with their technology. Those modifications have been passed down through generations, even though we forgot why they existed. So some of us are naturally compatible with the ancient ships, Elena said. That is why training has been easier for some pilots than others. Exactly. And there is more. I found records indicating that the ancient human civilization lasted for over 50,000 years. That is longer than recorded human history on Earth. They built an empire that spanned this entire region of space. They had alliances with dozens of species. They were respected, even feared. What happened to them? Elena asked. James found records of a war, but the details were unclear. Sarah brought up a new set of files. It was called the Convergence War. Multiple species banded together to challenge human dominance. They felt threatened by human expansion and technological superiority. The war lasted for 3 centuries. Both sides used weapons that could destroy planets. Star systems were rendered uninhabitable. Billions died on all sides. Elena felt a chill. That sounds like something the galaxy would remember. They do remember, Sarah said quietly, but not accurately. The Council has their own version of history. They call it the Great Calamity. They teach that a rogue civilization, never identified, nearly destroyed the galaxy with reckless use of advanced weapons. They use it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting any one species become too powerful. They erased us from history, Elena realized. The Council knows about ancient humanity. They know we were the ones who nearly destroyed the galaxy. That is why they have been working so hard to keep us weak. They are afraid we will rise again, Sarah nodded. And now we found their worst nightmare. Proof that humanity was once powerful enough to threaten everyone. And we have the weapons to prove it. Meanwhile, Commander David Torres worked with the ship crews, training them in combat formations and tactics. The ancient ships were incredibly responsive. Pilots reported that flying them felt more like running or swimming than operating a machine. The neural interface translated intent into action almost instantly. One of the pilots, a young woman named Lieutenant Maria Santos, demonstrated the capabilities during a training exercise. Her ship moved through a simulated asteroid field at speeds that should have been impossible. She avoided obstacles with seemingly no effort, spinning and diving with perfect precision. When she engaged simulated targets, her weapons locked on and fired before the targeting computer on a normal ship would have even detected the threats. David watched the exercise from the command center. He had been a military man for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Maria landed her ship and removed the neural interface headset. She was sweating, breathing hard, but smiling. That was incredible. I could feel every sensor, every weapon, every system. It is like the ship and I are one being. How do you feel? David asked. Any disorientation or confusion? Maria shook her head. The opposite, actually. When I am connected, everything makes sense. I know exactly where I am in 3-dimensional space. I can track multiple targets simultaneously. It is like my brain expanded to fill the ship. David made notes. All the pilots were reporting similar experiences. The ancient humans had created a technology that did not just augment human capabilities, it merged human consciousness with machine intelligence in a way that created something greater than either could achieve alone. Lieutenant James Park worked on a different problem. He knew that demonstrating their ships to the Council would be necessary, but it also carried risks. If the Council saw them as a threat, they might try to destroy the human fleet before it could be fully deployed. James needed a way to protect their forces while still making their point. He studied the ancient database looking for defensive technologies. What he found exceeded his expectations. The ancient humans had developed shield systems that could absorb and redirect energy weapons. They had stealth technology that made ships nearly invisible to sensors. They had point defense systems that could track and destroy thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously. James integrated these systems into their ships. He also planted false information in Council intelligence networks, making it appear that humanity had only found a dozen ancient ships instead of the hundreds that were actually available. Let them underestimate us, he thought. It would make the revelation even more shocking. On the seventh day of their journey, they received a transmission from Earth. The message was from Admiral Chen Wei, the commander of all human military forces. Elena, your mission has been approved at the highest levels. The President, the Defense Council, and the civilian government all agree. You are authorized to present your evidence to the Galactic Assembly. You are also authorized to use force if necessary, to defend human interests. But Elena, be careful. What you are doing could start a war that spans the galaxy. Elena recorded her response. Admiral, humanity did not start this conflict. The Council did when they decided to sabotage our colonies and support our enemies. We are simply revealing the truth and claiming what is rightfully ours. If that leads to war, then it is a war they forced upon us. She sent the message and turned to her crew. The reclaimer was approaching the neutral zone. Other human ships were moving into position. Not just the ancient vessels, but also modern human warships, cargo ships, and civilian vessels. Elena had called for a gathering of all available human forces. She wanted the Council to see that humanity was united in this moment. As they entered the neutral zone, sensors detected multiple alien warships. The Zethrak Empire had positioned 3 battle groups near the assembly station. The Vortan Collective had sent a fleet as well. Other species were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do. Elena opened a communication channel to all human ships. This is Captain Rivera. In a few hours, we will present evidence to the Galactic Council that will change everything. Some of you have families on colonies that were attacked. Some of you have friends who disappeared on ships that were ambushed. All of you have been living under a system that was designed to keep humanity weak and dependent. Today, that ends. Today, we show them what humanity really is. The human fleet moved into formation around the assembly station. The ancient ships took up positions at the front. Their sleek, predatory designs drew attention from every species present. Communication channels buzzed with confused chatter. What were those ships? Where had humans gotten technology that looked so advanced? Elena docked with the assembly station and prepared for her presentation. She reviewed her evidence one final time. The documents were irrefutable. The Council's betrayal was documented in their own files. The attacks on human colonies were traced back to Council-supplied weapons. The manipulation of votes and regulations was proven with communication logs and internal memos. She dressed in her formal uniform and gathered her team. Sarah would present the historical evidence about ancient humanity. James would handle the technical demonstration of their ships. David would coordinate security in case things went wrong. They walked through the station corridors toward the main assembly chamber. Alien delegates stared at them. Some looked curious. Others looked hostile. The Zethrak ambassador, a massive reptilian being named Krath, blocked their path. You humans are making a mistake. Whatever you think you have found, it will not save you. The Council will not tolerate this defiance. Elena met his gaze without flinching. Ambassador Krath, your empire murdered 15,000 human civilians. You used weapons that violated every galactic treaty, and you did it with the Council's blessing. If anyone is making a mistake, it is you. She pushed past him and entered the assembly chamber. The vast room fell silent as the human delegation took their position at the central podium. Hundreds of alien species watched from tiered seating that rose up on all sides. At the highest level sat the Council leadership. 7 species that had dominated galactic politics for millennia. High Counselor Vectron, a being whose species had evolved from aquatic predators, spoke first. Captain Rivera, you requested emergency speaking time. This is highly irregular. Humanity rarely participates in assembly proceedings. What matter is so urgent that it requires immediate attention? Elena activated the holographic displays. Images filled the air above the podium. Documents, communication logs, weapons analysis reports. All of it showing the Council's systematic betrayal of humanity. The matter is simple, Counselor. For 200 years, humanity has trusted this Council to treat us fairly. We paid our tribute. We followed your regulations. We believed in the ideals this assembly claims to represent. But we were wrong to trust you. You have been working against us from the beginning. Shocked murmurs rippled through the chamber. Vectron raised a hand for silence. These are serious accusations, Captain. Do you have proof? Elena gestured to the displays. The proof is in your own files. 3 human mining colonies destroyed in the past year. 15,000 dead. You told us it was accidents or natural disasters, but we know the truth. The Zethrak Empire attacked those colonies using weapons supplied by this council. Ambassador Krath stood. This is outrageous. The Zethrak Empire follows all galactic laws. We would never attack civilian targets. James stepped forward and brought up weapon analysis reports. These are energy signatures from the attacks. They match Zethrak military weapons exactly. Weapons that use Council-manufactured power cores. Weapons you should not possess because they violate the Stellar Peace Accords of 2347. More murmurs filled the chamber. Species that had been silent began looking at the Zethraks with suspicion. Several delegations pulled up their own tablets, cross-referencing the information. Sarah took over the presentation. She brought up the historical records from Arcturus Prime. But the Council's betrayal goes deeper than just recent attacks. You have known about ancient humanity for decades. You found evidence of our previous civilization. You knew we once dominated this region of space. And you have been working to make sure we never regain that power. Impossible, said Councillor Thrain of the Methrin Principality. There is no record of humans existing in this galaxy before your species achieved spaceflight 200 years ago. Sarah displayed the ancient texts and genetic analyses. We found a facility on Arcturus Prime, an ancient human military base over 100,000 years old. The technology there proves that humanity rose to greatness once before. We built an empire. We achieved technological superiority, and then we fell, lost everything, and had to start over. But our genetics remember. Our DNA carries markers from that ancient civilization. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted questions and accusations at each other. Some species looked terrified. Others looked angry. The council leadership tried to restore order, but the damage was done. The truth was out. Vectron finally managed to quiet the chamber. Even if what you say is true, and I am not admitting it is, what do you expect us to do about it? The past is the past. Ancient humanity is dead and gone. Elena smiled. That is where you are wrong, Counselor. Ancient humanity is not gone. We found their legacy, and we are taking it back. She sent a signal to the fleet outside. The ancient ships activated their full power systems. Energy readings spiked across every sensor in the system. On the viewing screens around the chamber, the alien delegates watched as 40 human warships demonstrated capabilities that should not exist. One ship accelerated to 0.9 light speed in seconds. Another performed maneuvers that violated known physics. A third fired a directed energy weapon that vaporized a decommissioned satellite in a fraction of a second. The demonstration lasted 5 minutes. When it ended, the assembly chamber was completely silent. Every delegate stared at the screens, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Elena spoke into that silence. Her voice was calm, controlled, and absolutely certain. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council effective immediately. We will no longer pay tribute to a corrupt system. We will no longer ask permission to defend ourselves. We will establish our own sphere of influence, and any species that wishes to join us will be welcome. As for those who oppose us, she looked directly at Ambassador Krath. I suggest you reconsider, because ancient humanity has returned, and we will not be ignored anymore. The ultimatum, the assembly chamber remained frozen in shocked silence for several long moments after Elena's declaration. Then chaos erupted. Delegates from dozens of species began shouting at once. Some demanded that the humans be arrested immediately. Others called for emergency military action. A few voices spoke in support of humanity, mostly from younger civilizations that had experienced similar treatment from the Council. High Counselor Vectron struggled to restore order. He activated the sonic dampeners built into the chamber, forcing everyone into silence. Captain Rivera, what you are proposing is an act of war. You cannot simply withdraw from the Council. The treaties that bind our civilizations together do not allow for unilateral separation. Elena stood firm at the podium. The treaties you mention require good faith from all parties. The Council has acted in bad faith for decades. You have violated your own laws. You have supplied weapons to our enemies. You have manipulated votes to deny us basic rights to self-defense. These actions void any treaties that might have bound us to your system. Counselor Thrain leaned forward in her seat. You speak of ancient humanity as if it gives you legitimacy, but the records are clear about what your ancestors did. They waged a war that nearly destroyed this entire region of space. They used weapons that committed genocide on multiple species. The Convergence War cost trillions of lives. Is that the legacy you wish to claim? Sarah stepped up beside Elena. The Convergence War was not started by humanity. We have the actual historical records now, not the propaganda version the Council has been teaching. Multiple species attacked human colonies without provocation. They feared our technological advancement and decided to destroy us before we became too powerful. Humanity defended itself. Yes, terrible weapons were used. Yes, countless lives were lost. But we were fighting for survival, not conquest. A new voice spoke from the gallery. It was Ambassador Lyris of the Talarian Republic, one of the younger species that had joined the Council only 80 years ago. High Counselor, the Talarian Republic wishes to speak. Vectron looked annoyed but nodded. Proceed. Lyris stood, her insectoid form clicking as she moved. My people have been members of this council for 8 decades. In that time, we have watched the same pattern repeat over and over. Younger species are welcomed, promised equality and fair treatment. But when we try to expand our colonies or strengthen our defenses, we face endless regulations and restrictions. Our trade routes are limited. Our technology applications are denied. Meanwhile, the older civilizations grow stronger, while keeping the rest of us dependent. She looked at Elena. I believe Captain Rivera. I believe the Council has been betraying humanity, because they have been doing the same thing to us. Several other delegates from younger species stood in agreement. The Nixer Collective, the Partian Union, the Korvath Assembly. One by one, they expressed similar experiences. The Council had promised equality but delivered control. They had offered partnership but enforced subservience. Vectron's expression darkened. You are allowing yourselves to be manipulated by human propaganda. Captain Rivera is trying to divide this council to justify her species' illegal actions. Elena shook her head. I am not dividing anything, Counselor. You divided the galaxy yourselves when you decided that some species deserve power and others do not. We are simply refusing to accept that system anymore. Ambassador Krath of the Zethrak Empire rose to his full imposing height. This discussion is meaningless. Humanity is a minor species with a small fleet. Regardless of what ancient technology you have found, you cannot stand against the combined forces of the Council. If you persist in this rebellion, you will be destroyed. Elena turned to face him directly. Ambassador, I would like to extend an invitation to the Zethrak Empire. Send your fleet against us. Test whether our ancient technology is as effective as we claim. But I warn you now, the 3 battle groups you have positioned near this station will not be enough. Not even close. Krath's eyes widened with surprise. How do you know about our fleet positions? Because we have been monitoring your movements for weeks, James said, stepping forward. We know exactly where every Zethrak warship is located. We know your communication protocols. We know your weapon capabilities, and we know that if you attack us, your empire will lose. David Torres activated another holographic display. This one showed the Zethrak fleet in detail, including classified information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. Each ship's name, crew complement, weapon loadouts, and tactical assignments appeared in the air. The Zethrak ambassador looked furious. This is espionage. This is an act of war in itself. No, Elena said calmly. This is proof that you cannot surprise us. You thought you could position your fleet for a quick strike against human colonies while we were distracted here. You thought wrong. A transmission came through to the assembly station's communication center. One of the council's staff members hurried to Vectron and whispered urgently. The High Counselor's face turned pale. He activated the chamber's main viewing screen. The image showed space near the assembly station. The human fleet had been joined by dozens of additional ships. Not ancient vessels this time, but modern human warships, cargo vessels, and civilian craft. Thousands of human ships from colonies across known space had converged on this location. They filled the viewing screen, a massive show of unity and strength. But that was not what made Vectron pale. Positioned among the human fleet were ships from other species. Talarian vessels, Nixer warships, Partian carriers, Korvath destroyers. At least 15 different civilizations had sent forces to stand with humanity. Ambassador Lyris spoke again. The Talarian Republic officially announces our withdrawal from the Galactic Council. We will be joining Captain Rivera's new alliance, an alliance built on actual equality and mutual respect, not on control and manipulation. One by one, the other younger species announced the same decision. They were leaving the council, They were joining humanity. The galaxy was fracturing and the Council's grip on power was breaking. Vectren stood, his aquatic features twisted in anger and fear. This is madness. You are throwing away thousands of years of galactic order. Do you not understand what you are doing? Without the Council, there will be chaos. There will be war. There is already war, Elena said quietly. You started it when you decided that some species matter more than others. When you attacked our colonies. When you armed our enemies. You just did not expect us to fight back. The Zethric ambassador made a signal to his staff. Within seconds, alarms blared throughout the assembly station. The Zethrak fleet had begun moving into attack positions. Elena had anticipated this. She sent a coded message to her pilots. Execute Defense Protocol 7. The ancient human ships moved with impossible speed. They placed themselves between the civilian vessels and the approaching Zethrak warships. The neural interface pilots reacted faster than any automated system, positioning their ships with perfect precision. Ambassador Krath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. You see humanity's true nature, violence and aggression. This is why you must be controlled. Elena did not take her eyes off the viewing screen. We offered peace. We presented evidence. We asked for justice. You responded with threats and military action. If there is violence here today, Ambassador, it will be because you chose it. The Zethrak fleet continued advancing. 127 warships against humanity's 40 ancient vessels. On paper, it should not even be a contest. But the Zethrak commanders did not understand what they were facing. Maria Santos sat in her neural interface chair aboard her ship, the Swift Vengeance. She could feel the Zethrak vessels approaching. Their weapons were charging. Their targeting systems were locking onto human positions. She did not wait for them to fire. Her consciousness expanded through the ship's systems. She identified the lead Zethrak cruiser and designated it as her primary target. Her ship's directed energy weapon charged in milliseconds and fired. The beam crossed the distance between them at the speed of light. It struck the Zethrak cruiser's main reactor with pinpoint accuracy. The enemy ship exploded. Not gradually, not with warning. It simply ceased to exist, consumed by a massive energy release from its own power core. The other ancient human ships fired simultaneously. 39 directed energy beams lanced out across space. 39 Zethrak vessels exploded or went dark as their systems failed. The entire engagement lasted 4 seconds. The remaining Zethrak fleet stopped advancing. Their commanders could not believe what they had just witnessed. 1/3 of their force destroyed in 4 seconds. No return fire. No warning. Just instant, overwhelming defeat. Maria kept her targeting systems locked on the enemy ships. She sent a message to the Zethrak fleet commander. This is Lieutenant Maria Santos of the Terran Alliance. You have 3 options. You can continue your attack and be destroyed. You can withdraw to a safe distance and avoid further conflict. Or you can join us in building a better system. Choose quickly. There was a long pause. Then the Zethrak fleet began backing away, slowly at first, then faster. Within minutes, they had retreated to a position well beyond weapon range. In the assembly chamber, Ambassador Krath sat down heavily. His aggressive posture had crumbled. He looked like a being who had just watched his entire worldview shatter. Elena spoke to the entire assembly. What you just witnessed was not humanity showing off. It was humanity defending itself. We did not seek this conflict. We did not want to withdraw from the Council. But you left us no choice. We will not live as second-class citizens in a system designed to exploit us. High Counselor Vectren had regained some composure, though he still looked shaken. Captain Rivera, even if we accepted your grievances as legitimate, what you are proposing would destabilize the entire galaxy. Species would choose sides. Alliances would fracture. Trade networks would collapse. Millions could die in the chaos. Elena nodded. You are right. Millions could die. That is why I am offering the Council a choice. You can fight us and guarantee that catastrophe, or you can accept that the old system is broken and work with us to build something better. What are your terms? Vectren asked quietly. Elena had prepared for this question. First, the Council acknowledges its actions against humanity and other younger species. Full transparency, no cover-ups. Second, all regulations that specifically restrict defensive capabilities for younger species are abolished. Every civilization has the right to defend itself. Third, the Council's decision-making structure is reformed. No more seven-species oligarchy. Representation is based on population and economic contribution, not on how long a species has been in space. That would completely remake the council, Councillor Thrain protested. Yes, Elena agreed. That is the point. The current council serves the interests of the oldest and most powerful species. A reformed council would serve everyone equally, and if we refuse, Vectron asked, then the Terran Alliance becomes a separate political entity. We will establish our own laws, our own trade networks, our own defensive pacts. Species can choose whether to join the council or the alliance. Over time, the galaxy will show which system works better. Democracy and equality or oligarchy and control. The chamber fell silent again. The delegates were processing the weight of what was being decided. This was not just about humanity anymore. This was about the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. Ambassador Lyris spoke. The Tellurian Republic supports Captain Rivera's terms. We believe the council can be reformed into something better, something that truly represents all species equally. Other voices joined her. The Nixer Collective, the Partian Union. Even some of the older species began expressing support, not because they wanted change, but because they feared the alternative. A divided galaxy meant war, economic collapse, and chaos. Reform might be painful, but it was better than destruction. Vectron looked at his fellow High Counselors. They engaged in a whispered conference. Finally, he turned back to Elena. The Council requires time to consider these proposals. We cannot make such fundamental changes in a single day. Elena shook her head. No more delays, Counselor. No more committees and studies that go nowhere. You will decide today. Right now, in front of all these witnesses. Reform the Council or watch it collapse. Those are your choices. The pressure was unbearable. Every delegate in the chamber waited. Every ship in the fleet outside watched. The moment stretched out tense and fragile. Finally, Vectron spoke. The Council of Seven agrees to begin the reform process. We will acknowledge past errors in judgment. We will revise regulations regarding defensive capabilities. And we will restructure our decision-making process to provide more equitable representation. Elena felt relief wash over her, but she kept her expression neutral. I want that agreement in writing. Broadcast to every species in the galaxy. No secret amendments, no loopholes. You will have it, Vectron said. But Captain Rivera, understand this. You have made powerful enemies today. Not everyone will accept these changes peacefully. There will be resistance. Then we will deal with resistance, Elena replied. Humanity did not come this far to back down now. Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed. The Council reluctantly began implementing the reforms Elena had demanded. More species joined the Terran Alliance, drawn by promises of fair treatment and mutual respect. Some of the oldest civilizations resisted, trying to maintain their privileged positions. But the balance of power had shifted. Humanity continued activating ancient technology from Arcturus Prime. More ships were brought online. More pilots were trained. The manufacturing facilities produced weapons, shields, and equipment that rivaled or exceeded anything in the galaxy. Elena was promoted to admiral and given command of the new Terran Defense Fleet. Maria Santos became one of her squadron commanders. James Park led intelligence operations. Sarah Mitchell headed research into the ancient databases, uncovering more secrets about humanity's forgotten past. David Torres trained the next generation of pilots and soldiers. 6 months after Elena's speech to the Assembly, the first meeting of the reformed Galactic Council took place. Representatives from over 300 species attended. The old seven-species oligarchy was replaced by a democratic parliament. Votes were transparent. Decisions required actual consensus, not just the approval of the powerful few. It was not perfect. Old grievances still simmered. Some species refused to accept the new order. Small conflicts erupted in border regions, but the galaxy was moving toward something better, something more just. Elena stood on the bridge of the Reclaimer, looking out at the stars. She thought about the ancient humans who had once ruled this region of space. They had built an empire, fought a terrible war, and lost everything. But they had left behind the tools for their descendants to reclaim what was lost. A message came through from Earth. It was from her younger sister Emma, who still lived in their hometown. Elena, we just saw the news broadcasts. Everyone is talking about what you did. They are calling you a hero. Mom and Dad would be so proud, Elena smiled. She thought about her parents, both deceased now. They had been farmers, simple people who had never left Earth. They had raised Elena to believe in fairness, justice, and standing up for what was right. She had carried those lessons to the stars. "This is not about heroism," Elena replied to her sister. "It is about doing what needed to be done. Humanity deserves to be treated as equals. Every species does. That is worth fighting for." She closed the communication and returned to watching the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers, but humanity was ready now. Ready to explore, ready to build, ready to defend what they had earned. The ancient humans had conquered the stars once before. They had fallen but not faded. Their legacy lived on in their descendants, in the technology they left behind, in the genetic markers that allowed neural interfaces and advanced piloting. And now, after 100,000 years of darkness, humanity had returned to its rightful place, not as conquerors this time, not as tyrants, but as equals, demanding the respect they deserved. The Galactic Council had betrayed humanity, thinking they were weak and easy to control. They had learned the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was patient, and when pushed far enough, humanity would push back with everything they had. The ultimatum had been delivered. The galaxy had made its choice, and the future would be written by those brave enough to demand justice no matter the cost. Elena Rivera had started as a simple captain trying to serve her species with honor. Now she was an admiral, a diplomat, and a symbol of human resilience. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, conflicts, and difficult decisions. But for the first time in 200 years, humanity faced the future with confidence. They were no longer the newcomers begging for acceptance. They were the inheritors of an ancient legacy, and they would not be denied their place among the stars.